Hey everyone, welcome back to Twinkle Tunes and Lighting. Today I'm showing you how I turned everyday materials like aluminum extrusion, plexiglass, and LED strips into this DIY LED tune-to sign for my show this year. Let's dive into the build. So I've got my table saw set up here and I'm using what's called 2020 aluminum. It's extruded aluminum, you can get it on Amazon. I have a couple manufacturers down the street from my house that sells this stuff, and people build all kinds of things with this aluminum. And so I went down and I got several pieces of it, and I'm cutting them. It's a 4 foot, this is a 2 foot by 1 foot sign. And so I've got a couple pieces here that I cut for the height of it and then the width of it as well. These pieces are hardware that slides into those channels, so it actually locks into those channels, and that's how you can get it all to stay together nice and flush. Here's my LED strips that I'm using. I get these from BTS Lighting. I like these guys a lot, or BTF Lighting, I'm sorry. I like these guys a lot. All their stuff always comes nicely packaged and it always works and it's always bright, and I really like these guys. One thing I don't use the JST connectors that come with them though. Because this is going outside and going in my show, I want a watertight connection. I want a waterproof connection, and I run all my connectors are what's called the Reiwu style type connector. There's JST, there's Reiwu, and there's X Connect, and I run all the Reiwu style connectors in my show and on my props. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these JST connectors off, and I'm gonna put a set of Reiwus on there so that they can tie in with all the rest of my controllers. Instead of cutting them off, I like to desolder them because you never know when you're gonna use those connectors again or use them for something else. And so I like to keep my connectors and keep them around. This is some wire that I have. It's called 9451. It is a 20 gauge wire that has 3 conductors in it. And I'm going to go ahead and strip this back, and I'm going to make a pretty long tail on my sign. I'm going to go ahead and make it about 10 feet long, and so that it can already be ran to the controller without me having to run extensions up to the light from the controller. So here I'm tinning the ends. Anytime you're soldering, you want to tin the ends, was what it's called. So you want to go ahead and put solder already on the ends. I put a bit of flux on it as well. The flux is almost like this kind of resin, like this paste. And what that does is it actually sucks all that solder right into those wires. And so as you're soldering onto any piece of gear, once we have the combination of your ends tinned and you've got the flux on there, it just sucks right onto there, and it's really makes it a lot easier. It makes the solder really stay where it's supposed to go, so you're not fighting having solder spill all over the place and having your leads not connect where you want them to go. So tin your ends, and also use that flux. Flux is a big plus. Go ahead and put some heat shrink over the end of it here, just to give it a little bit more protection from anything where those wires can be exposed. And I went ahead and heat shrink over where I soldered. So I've got 2 sets of heat shrink on there, one for the actual wires and then one to go over the top of the connector where it solders on to the actual LED strip there. Now this is where my cable is going to come into my sign. I wanted to come in on the bottom left of the sign. So I'm going to run my cable down. I just threw a little 1/4 inch hole through there, and that's where my LEDs are going to start. It doesn't matter where you start the LEDs because I'm going to map them in X lights. I'm going to map them on my controllers. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, how come you don't have number 1 starting all the way in the bottom left, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't matter because I can tell it where I'm going to start it. These are WS2812s, WS2812b to be exact, and so these are the smart RGB LEDs, and so I can control the red, green, and blue with them, with my controller. Now here's the other end of that extension that I put on there, the other part of the 10-foot extension. Go ahead and strip that back, and this is where I'm going to put my Reiwu male connector on here. You got to remember to put your heat shrink on before you do anything, because when you solder it, you can't put your heat shrink on there. Here's that flux I was telling you about. I just go ahead and dab a little bit on the end there, and when I put some solder in there, that solder sucks right into that cable and works out great. I'm using the flat style Reiwus. They got the round style, which I use in my control boxes, but I like these flat styles. They're a little bit, they bend a little bit more, and they're easy to work with, I think, when we're making props. And I'm gonna go ahead and use these solder sleeves. The solder sleeves have been working really well for me when I discovered them. They've really helped me out with my props and making, fixing and just making some custom things with it. And the solder sleeves work out really well. If you've never used them before, I got a video that I can post as well that shows you how to use them, but they're a super convenient, super cheap way to solder your cables together, and this works out great. So here I put all three together with the heat shrink on the back end here, and I'm going to go ahead and take it up to my heat gun, and we're going to solder the whole thing at the same time. And there we go. I've got it plugged into my tester on my workbench here, and you can see the lights are working and populated, and so there is step one of my sign. So we've got the frame built, I've got the lights put in. Now let's jump over to the lettering. Here I've got my vinyl cutter. I've got a Silhouette. This is, I think, one of the first ones that ever come out, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my letters and my numbers. My station that people tune to is 87.9. And if you don't have a Silhouette or a vinyl cutter, you can go to your little hobby store down there, and you can get all these letters and numbers and get them the size that you need. But I had the ability to cut my own, so here I am putting it onto my Plexiglass. And I went ahead and put a black border around it as well, and perfect fit. So that's what it's going to look like. So now we got to attach the Plexiglass to the LED strips. And so in here I've got these. Once again, you can buy all kinds of accessories for your 2020 aluminum, and these are the T-nuts. They slide into those little slots there, and when you tighten them down, they'll actually spin and turn and lock into that extruded aluminum, and it keeps it'll keep the sign on there just real nice and neat, and it won't go anywhere. So let's do some measuring here, and where I'm going to drill my holes and try to make it the same on both sides to make it look uniform. Now when you're drilling into this Plexiglass, you want to be nice and slow and don't push. You're not drilling into a 2x4 here, all right? Let your bit, get a real nice sharp bit and let your bit do all the work. Don't press hard and just let it sit there and chomp through that Plexiglass, and then you're not going to crack it or break it or, have to go out and get another piece here. And so I'm not pressing hard at all when I was drilling into that, really being real patient when I was putting that in there. So once again, here's my Allen screws that I'm putting in here, and I just lightly finger tighten them down, and so I can move my sign back and forth, and then I'm gonna go ahead and ram it home, and there we go. There is the final product for my Tune 2 sign. I hope you guys enjoyed the build. Super easy, super classy. I liked it a lot. It looked really good in my show this year, and it was really a real simple build. If you like my tutorials, please subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon when more stuff comes out. And thanks so much for watching. You guys are great. I appreciate you guys watching my videos. And here, click a couple more. I've got one over here. That's a pretty good one. And one on the right side. And always hit that subscribe in the middle. It's good stuff. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Drop them in the comments below. And I'll see if I can help you guys out. Till the next one, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.